Good morning, class. Today, we will talk about Newton's laws of motion. So what is force in the first place? A force is a push or pull upon an object resulting from the object's interaction with another object. So force is just a vector having magnitude and direction. So there are four forces known in the universe. The electromagnetic force, which is caused from electric and magnetic interactions. Strong nuclear force, responsible for holding nucleus together in the atom. Gravitational force, which is the weakest force, it acts over the longest distance. And the weak nuclear force, which is responsible for radioactivity in atoms. There are two types of forces. These are contact force and the field force. The contact force exists when an object from the external world touches a system and exerts a force on it. Think about a book on a table. If you push it, you are exerting a contact force. But if you put it down, you are no longer interacting with the book, so there is no force from you. But the table is touching it, so the table is now exerting a force. A field force, on the other hand, happens when an object moves without something directly touching it. Gravitational force is a field force. They affect movement without being in physical contact. Another field forces are the magnetic fields, electric force, and nuclear force. It was Sir Isaac Newton, an English scientist and mathematician, who formulated the law of gravity and the laws of motion. This is also known as the Newton's laws of motion. Newton's first law of motion states that an object at rest tends to stay at rest, and an object in motion tends to stay in motion unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. So basically, an object will keep doing what it was doing unless acted on by an unbalanced force. What is meant by unbalanced force? If the forces on an object are equal and opposite, they are said to be balanced. Or if the summation of all forces acted upon an object is zero, then it is also balanced, and the object experiences no change in motion. If they are not equal and opposite, then the forces are unbalanced and the motion of the object changes. So for example, a soccer ball is sitting at rest. It takes an unbalanced force of a kick to change its motion. And if two teams are playing tug of war, they are both exerting equal force on the rope in opposite directions. This balanced force results in no change of motion. Newton's first law is also called the law of inertia. It is the tendency of an object to resist changes in its state of motion. The first law states that all objects have inertia. The more mass an object has, the more inertia it has, and the harder it is to change its motion. So if you throw a ball upwards, it will eventually slow down and fall because of the force of gravity. Now we moved on to Newton's second law of motion. It states that the net force acting on an object is equal to its mass times the acceleration of the object. Acceleration is a measurement of how quickly an object is changing its velocity. So if you have a net force of zero, Then you have balanced forces, and it causes no acceleration, meaning the object will not move, or the object will move at its constant speed. However, if you have imbalanced forces, then it will cause the object to accelerate. Now we move on to Newton's third law of motion. It states that for every action, there is always an equal and opposite reaction. So when you push on the wall also pushes on you. Newton's third law describes the relationship between two forces in an interaction. One force is called the action force. The other force is called the reaction force. Neither force exists without the other, so they are equal in strength and opposite in direction. They occur at the same time. So when the girl jumps to shore, the boat moves backward. Now let us summarize Newton's laws of motion. Newton's first law states that objects in motion tend to stay in motion, and objects at rest tend to stay at rest unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. Newton's second law of motion states that unbalanced forces are equal to the mass times acceleration of an object, while Newton's third law states that for every action, there is always an equal and opposite reaction. Till our next class session.